Well, Super League is finally here. The new season starts for our West Yorkshire sides on Sunday, and to gauge their chances across the season, I'm joined by my radio wife, the Mayor of Huddersfield, and in my humble opinion, quite simply the best prop in this room right now. It's Mr. Eorl Crabtree.
You cheeky yet.
So it starts. And so starts the new era, of course. Every minute will matter from here on in, we're told. Are we going to have a season of a lot of wowzers, do you think?
I really hope so, especially if I'm alongside you for most of it. I expect a few wowzers along the way. I think it's the expectation of the unknown, the unexpected almost, simply because we don't really know what's going to happen this season, but we know it's going to be an explosive start. All the teams have prepared themselves, but they're not really sure what they've prepared themselves for.
Well, let's take the teams in the order in which they finished last season. So it means Huddersfield first of all. And I'm not just saying this because you're here, but I really do feel that Huddersfield is our West Yorkshire's best chance of touching a trophy if one thing happens, and that is you believe in yourself and you really understand how good you can be. And I don't mean just you, I mean the whole team. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, simply because I think in the past we've got to the big games and then we kind of bottled it. But I think the players that we've recruited as well have added a lot of strength to us, especially Craig Hubie, Jamie Ellis. I think they've been absolutely fantastic through pre-season. So the likes of them coming into the side, they just give us that extra strength up front, obviously, in depth, and a bit of skill as well. Jamie Ellis has been fantastic for us, and I honestly believe he adds a lot more to the Huddersfield Giants now, and it just gives us a new dimension, and I think we're really excited about going out there with a bit of experience as well, and if we stand a chance of winning something, it definitely is this year.
Team news for the Giants. You mentioned the three new signings. They've all been named in the 19-man squad today, so we'd expect them to make their debut. You've been impressed with Jamie Ellis, haven't you? You've said that before.
I've said it a lot of times, simply because I think I was one of the doubters to a certain degree, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, and I've said this before, because he's a good talent, but I always thought he was just a decent player. But coming to Huddersfield, he's had a real dig, because he knows that if he gets the opportunity, then he will try and keep it, and if he plays well, he will keep it, because we don't have that many players in that position. The way he's trained, the way he played in the Halifax game suggests that he wants this a lot, and he wants to be a player that's had confidence in, and I think Blue gives him that confidence by playing him. Also Jack Hughes, let's not forget him, he's coming from Wigan, and he adds a lot to you. He's a Wigan player, he's a Wigan style player, very aggressive, and he wants to rip in for us. He's a good young lad, and I've been very impressed with him as well.
Okay, let's move on to Castleford Tigers then, and the challenge for Cass, you'd have to say, to try and prove that last year was no fluke. They're going to have to do it without the man of steel, Darryl Clark, but they have the coach of the year, Darryl Powell. I think anything is possible for Cass. They've had quite a few players in, quite a few players out as well. I'd expect to see them up there again. What about you?
I expect to see them up there, but I'm not so sure they'll be able to back it up again. Again, it's one of those where I look from the outside, and the players that they've lost have been fantastic for them and made a massive difference to them last year. Same coach this year, which will install that confidence yet again, and they hopefully will gain momentum throughout the season and win a lot of games. But I think last year they sort of excelled themselves and probably overachieved at certain times. Again, I may be a bit disrespectful to them, but I honestly believe it will be very hard to back that up again, but I still expect them to do well.
A lot's been made of Darryl Clark's departure, but if you think about it, this time last year, a lot was being made of Rangi Chase's departure, and they coped without him.
I expect the exact same again, and you have to find a way to cope, and the players that they've got in will fill those positions. It'll be different styles of players, like Scotty Moore going into that team is totally different. He's probably more of a ball player than Darryl Clark. You know, he's more of a runner of the ball. When there's a quick play of the ball, he will go off the back of that, and that's what he does. That's what got him Man of Steel. But different calibre of player in there, different style of play, may still benefit Cass Tigers, and that's what they'll expect.
Team news, Darryl Powell's named quite a strong 19 as well. 6 of the 8 new signings in there. Steve Crossley, Luke Gale, Scott Moore, Junior Moores, Ben Roberts and Denny Solomon. It's just missing Matt Cook and Mike McMeekan. And that takes us on to Leeds Rhinos. Gary Hetherington sat in this studio and described the current squad as the best ever, which is a big call when you consider they only made one signing, and there's a couple of their big players set to end this year and others moving closer to retirement as well. But I think what he's alluding to is the youngsters there, the Stevie Wards, the Brad Singletons, the Josh Walters of this world, the Liam Sutcliffes, who are a year older, a year wiser as well, and there's going to be a lot on their shoulders. How do you see Leeds this season going?
I expect them, as always, to do well, but slip up throughout the season. They're a little bit inconsistent. They have been for the last few years. We know that because we're at every home game. We know exactly how they play, and they rise for the big games. I think to say the best group of players, I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm not convinced. Best crop of players? Possibly, because all these players need to grow. I don't think they're at their full potential yet. I think they've still got a long way to go, but they are improving. This year, maybe another step up for them. Will they improve enough to go on and win more silverware? Possibly. But they have got the old guard as well, which kind of bring them through. So anything could happen with Leeds, we know that.
And their more recent Super League Grand Final wins have come from 5th position as well, haven't they? They're not going to be able to do that this year because it's the top 4 that will go forward. Is that going to make it more difficult for them, do you think?
I'm not so sure. I think they play the way they do throughout the season. They rest players at certain times because they've always got a big squad with talented players coming in, whether they be young or older. So they can rely on that, and they're not too bothered about slipping up. That's been in the past. Things have changed again. This restructuring changes everything. I think all the coaches are nervous about not starting well. Everyone is flying in training this year. Fitness levels are at all-time high, and I think that's what's going to make the difference at the beginning of the year. I expect an explosive start to Super League, but yet again, I think the skill levels maybe not quite up there, simply because of the weather, the facilities that teams have. I think they're more focused on being really fit for the start of the year.
Leeds could hit the ground running when you look at the squad that they've announced today. 19. It's a near full strength 19. There's only Brett Delaney unavailable, and sole signing Adam Cuthbertson is in there. He's going to make his Super League debut, as you would expect. And that takes us on to Wakefield Trinity Wildcats. Many people tipping them to finish bottom, including Gary Schofield, who recently wrote an article saying that with the exception of Tim Smith and Danny Kerman, I think it was, none of the other Wakefield players would be wanted by any other Super League sides, which is a little bit daft, isn't it? And I know for a fact that article is now on the dressing room wall. They will be underdogs, they will be undercats, but I think they'll prove a few people wrong this year. Do you?
Certainly, and we've seen it in the past year again. There's some of those games that we go to where they shock us and they play fantastically well. Gary Schofield, I think you've got to take him with a pinch of salt. He's a character within our game, and you've got to respect the fact that he's allowed his own opinion, even if it is complete nonsense. And I respect him for that, but at the same time, I don't agree with everything he says. Wakefield Trinity Wildcats, they will cause a few upsets this year. And if they can gain that momentum that they have done in the past and use almost that camaraderie of the team and work on that rather than just relying on individual talents, they can still go a long way. Anything could happen. You just don't know this year.
It's the squad they've got and the spirit within that squad as well. It's very naive to look at that and say they're going to finish bottom, isn't it?
I think that's what's disappointing when people look on the outside and say, do you know what, those players almost don't deserve a shirt simply because they're not good enough to be in any other team.
And sometimes these are people who haven't seen them play.
Exactly, I think it's a load of rubbish. Just because someone hasn't got as famous a name as somebody else doesn't make them a good player, especially for that squad. We've seen it before with other players going into teams, such as Tim Smith going into the Salford team, but he was not good enough for that Salford team. So you could say that about someone as high calibre as him. It's just simply because he didn't fit into that side and that structure. It doesn't mean he's not good enough. He's gone back to Wakefield and absolutely killed it.
Team news that the fans forum this week, James Webster said that there could be some surprise selections. Well, he's actually named 4 of his 6 new faces in the 19. Craig Hall, Jacob Miller, Lapini Peya and Mika Simon in there, so there's no Ian Kirk or Matty Ashurst. Also in the squad, though, young forward Chris Anakin, who's impressed apparently in pre-season as well. And that is about it. It means the talking is over. It means the action is about to start, and it will start on BBC Radio Leeds on Sunday with coverage of Huddersfield against Hull FC, Leeds at Hull KR, and that big local derby as well, Castleford against Wakefield, all on Sunday from 3. And I will be joined also by the Bradford Bulls former coach Francis Cummins and the Halifax prop Luke Ambler. And we'll see you on Sunday.